Have you ever thought about which music artists didn't just become famous, but became legends across the entire world? Not just trending for a moment, but selling millions, even hundreds of millions of records, reaching people across generations, cultures, and languages. Think about it. Before streaming, before viral trends, people had to actually buy music. Albums, CDs, cassettes. Every sale meant someone chose that artist over everything else. And when those numbers start reaching into the hundreds of millions, you're not just looking at popularity anymore. You're looking at history being made. But here's the real question. What does it actually take to become one of the best-selling music artists of all time? Is it talent, timing, consistency, or something deeper that connects with people on an emotional level? Because the truth is, it's never just one thing. It's a combination of moments, memories, and music that people never forget. Some artists built their success slowly, releasing songs over decades, growing with their audience, becoming part of people's lives. Others exploded onto the scene and changed everything almost overnight, creating sounds that the world had never heard before. And here's something interesting. Every generation has its own legends. The artists your parents listened to, the ones you grew up with, and the ones rising right now, they all play a role in this global story. And that's what makes this so fascinating. Because this isn't just about numbers going up, it's about how music travels through time. And here's a question for you. Which artist do you think is number one? Do you think it's someone from the past, someone timeless, or someone more recent who took over the modern era? Because no matter what you guess, there's always a surprise waiting. And as you watch these rankings move, rising and shifting, remember every single number represents real people, real fans, real moments. Someone listening to a song on repeat, someone buying an album, someone connecting to lyrics that meant something to them. And when millions of people share that same feeling, that's when an artist becomes unstoppable. And here's the part most people don't notice. Music isn't just heard, it's felt. That's why certain songs never fade. That's why some artists stay relevant even after decades. Because they didn't just create music, they created emotion. And emotion travels further than anything else. And as the numbers start climbing, you'll begin to see patterns. Some artists dominate for years, holding their position with consistency and loyal fans. Others rise quickly, powered by global hits that spread everywhere. And sometimes, the most unexpected names appear, proving that success in music doesn't always follow a predictable path. That's what makes this so exciting to watch. Because at any moment, everything can change. One hit song can shift rankings, one album can break records, one moment can turn an artist into a global icon. And you're about to see exactly how that happens. And now this is where things start getting even more interesting. Because once an artist reaches a certain level, success doesn't just grow slowly, it can suddenly explode. One album, one song, one moment can change everything. A track goes global, people from different countries start listening at the same time, and suddenly the numbers begin to rise faster than anyone expected. And that's when an artist moves from being popular to being everywhere. And here's something fascinating. Music doesn't need translation to connect. A song can be in a completely different language and still reach millions because rhythm, emotion, and energy speak for themselves. That's how some artists break barriers and expand far beyond their original audience. And when that happens, their sales don't just grow, they multiply. But here's the twist. Reaching the top is one challenge, staying there is another. Because the moment an artist becomes huge, expectations rise. Every new release is compared to the last. Fans expect more, the world is watching, and competition never stops. And that's what separates the biggest artists from the rest, the ability to stay relevant, to keep creating, to keep connecting even as trends change. And trends change fast. What people loved a few years ago might feel different today. New sounds appear, new styles take over, and new artists start rising. But somehow the legends find a way to adapt. They evolve without losing what made them special. And that's why they continue to grow even when the industry shifts around them. And here's a question for you. Do you think it's harder to create one huge hit or to stay successful for decades? Because when you look at the best-selling artists, you'll notice something. They didn't just have one moment, they had many. Different songs, different eras, different styles, all adding up over time. And that's how those massive sales numbers are built. And then there's something even more powerful, fan loyalty. When people truly connect with an artist, they don't just listen once. They come back again and again, they support every release, they follow every era, and that kind of connection is what turns millions into hundreds of millions. And as you watch the rankings move, you'll start to see that this isn't just a race of numbers. It's a story of influence, consistency, and connection. Some artists rise quickly and make a huge impact in a short time, while others build their legacy slowly, becoming stronger year after year. And both paths can lead to the top. And that's what makes this so unpredictable, because at any moment, a shift can happen. A new release, a global event, a sudden wave of attention, and everything changes again. And you're watching that story unfold in real time, where every increase, every movement represents millions of people choosing the same artist, the same music, the same feeling. And here's where it gets even more interesting, because behind these massive sales numbers, there's something deeper happening that most people don't notice. Every artist you see here didn't just sell music. They define moments in time. Think about it. Certain songs instantly take you back to a memory, a place, a feeling. That's not random, that's impact. And the artists who appear at the top are the ones who created those moments again and again for millions of people. And here's something surprising. Different eras had completely different ways of building success. In earlier years, selling physical albums was everything. People had to go out, buy music, and choose carefully. That made every sale more meaningful. Then came the digital shift, downloads, and eventually streaming, where music became more accessible than ever. And that changed the game completely. Suddenly, artists could reach global audiences instantly. But even with all these changes, one thing stayed the same. Only a few artists managed to truly dominate. And that's because they understood something important. They didn't just follow trends, sometimes they created them. And when an artist creates a new sound, a new style, or a new wave, others follow. And that's when influence turns into legacy. And here's a question for you. Have you ever listened to a song so much that it felt like part of your life? Now imagine millions of people feeling the same way about the same artist. That's how these numbers grow. It's not just popularity, it's connection at scale. And then there's something even more powerful, timelessness. Some artists don't just stay popular for a few years, their music keeps getting discovered by new generations. People who weren't even born when the songs were released still listen to them today. And that keeps their sales growing, even years later. That's when an artist moves beyond success and becomes something bigger. And as you watch these rankings shift, you'll notice something else: consistency. The artists at the top didn't just have one big moment, they kept delivering over and over again. Different albums, different styles, but always finding a way to stay relevant. And that's not easy at all, because staying creative for years, even decades, while the entire industry keeps changing, is one of the hardest things to do. And yet, that's exactly what these artists managed to achieve. And that's why their names keep rising, their numbers keep growing, and their place in history keeps getting stronger. And the best part is, this story is still evolving. Because even now, new artists are rising, new sounds are spreading, and new records are being broken. And that means what you're watching isn't just the past. It's part of an ongoing story that's still being written. And here's something people rarely think about when they look at these numbers. Success in music isn't just about how many records you sell, it's about when you sold them and how you did it. Imagine selling 50 million albums in a time when people had fewer choices, fewer artists, and music was harder to access. Now compare that to today, where millions of songs are just one tap away. Different eras, completely different challenges. That's why comparing artists across time is so fascinating, because each one had to win in their own way. Some dominated when radio and physical albums ruled the world. Others took over during the digital revolution. And some mastered the streaming era, where its attention moves faster than ever. And yet, the names you see here all found a way to rise above their competition. That's not luck, that's understanding the moment. And here's a powerful thought: music success is one of the few things where numbers meet emotion. Because you can't force millions of people to listen, to replay, to connect, they choose it. And that choice is what builds these massive sales. And when an artist earns that level of connection, it deserves appreciation. Because behind every number here is creativity, risk, and years of effort. Writing songs, performing, evolving, facing criticism, and still continuing. And that journey is what makes these artists stand out. And here's another interesting truth. Sometimes the biggest artists are not the loudest or the most everywhere, but the ones who quietly stay consistent over time. They don't rely on one big hit, they build a catalog, song after song, album after album, slowly adding up until those numbers become huge. And that's a completely different kind of success. And as you watch this, try to notice that difference. Some artists rise like a wave, fast and powerful. Others rise like a tide, slow but unstoppable, and both paths can lead to the top. And that's what makes this list so unique. It's not one story, it's many stories happening at once. And here's something to appreciate. Music connects people who have never met, from completely different parts of the world, through the same sound. And the artists who appear here manage to create that connection on a massive scale. That's not just success, that's influence that crosses borders. And as the numbers continue to move, just remember, you're not only watching a ranking, you're watching the result of millions of moments, millions of choices, and millions of people finding something in music that stayed with them. And here's another angle that makes this even more interesting: collaboration. Some of the biggest jumps in an artist's journey don't come from working alone, but from working together. When two major artists combine their styles, their audiences combine too. Fans discover new music, new voices, and suddenly growth accelerates in ways that wouldn't happen otherwise. And it's not just about numbers, it's about blending sounds, cultures, and ideas into something fresh. That's how music keeps evolving. And here's something else people often overlook: the role of live performances. Long before streaming numbers and digital charts, concerts were where artists proved their impact. Stadiums filled with thousands of fans, singing every word, creating moments that can't be measured by sales alone. And those moments build loyalty. People who experience that connection don't just listen once, they stay for years. And that loyalty plays a huge role in long-term success. And then there's storytelling within the music itself. The artists who last the longest are often the ones who have something to say. Their songs reflect emotions people understand: love, struggle, ambition, change. And when listeners see their own story in a song, that connection becomes powerful. It's no longer just entertainment, it becomes personal. And that's when music turns into something timeless. And here's a question for you: do you listen more to new songs, or do you keep going back to older ones that never get old? Because that choice says a lot about how artists build their legacy. New hits can bring attention, but lasting songs keep the numbers growing over time. And as you watch the rankings continue to move, notice how some artists stay steady. That steady growth shows something important. It means their music keeps getting rediscovered, replayed, and remembered. And in a world where trends come and go quickly, being remembered is one of the most powerful things an artist can achieve. And that's why these names continue to rise, not just because of one moment, but because of many moments that kept people listening again and again. And now, as everything starts coming together, this is where the full picture really makes sense. Because what you're seeing here isn't just a list of artists with big numbers, it's a timeline of how music itself has evolved through generations. Every name represents a different era, a different sound, a different way people connect with music at that time. And when you place them all side by side, you begin to understand something powerful. There is no single formula for success in music. Some artists reach the top with groundbreaking innovation, changing the sound of their time completely. Others did it through consistency, delivering song after song that people loved without trying to reinvent everything. And some simply had that rare ability to connect instantly, where the moment people heard their music, they stayed. And that kind of connection is almost impossible to predict. And here's something that really puts it into perspective. Every number you see here represents someone choosing to listen, choosing to buy, choosing to come back again. That's not something that can be forced, that's earned. And when it's earned at this scale, it becomes something much bigger than just success. It becomes influence that shapes culture itself. And think about how many moments these artists have been part of: celebrations, heartbreaks, long drives, quiet nights. Music is always there, and the artists who appear here are the ones who manage to be part of those moments for millions of people. And that's why their impact lasts longer than trends. Trends come and go, but connection stays. And here's another interesting truth: being a best-selling artist doesn't mean everything was always easy. Behind the success, there were challenges, risks, changes in direction, and constant pressure to stay relevant. But the ones who made it to the top found a way to keep going, to keep creating, and to keep evolving without losing what made them unique. And that's something worth appreciating. Because lasting success isn't just about reaching the top once, it's about staying there through change. And as the industry keeps evolving, new platforms, new technologies, and new audiences continue to reshape what success looks like. But even with all those changes, one thing remains constant: people will always connect with music that feels real to them. And now here's a thought to leave you with. Years from now, when the numbers change and new artists rise, which of these names will still be remembered the same way? Because numbers can grow, records can be broken, but true legacy is something different. It's something that stays even when everything else changes. And maybe that's what makes this so interesting, because you're not just watching who sold the most, you're watching who created something that lasted. And as you've seen these artists rise, hold their place, and build their legacy, it all comes down to one simple truth: music isn't just something we listen to, it's something we carry with us. And the artists who understood that didn't just become bestsellers, they became unforgettable.